So just kind of based on these first few practices you've been to, what do you see your offense kind of looking like here? What are you kind of working on?
Not really that far down the line. Obviously working on more just execution, angles of screens, reads, things of that nature. A lot of breakdown stuff. Just trying to get into the flow, trying to get a lot of shots, a lot of decision making, and reads within things more than anything. And then you try to be able to get them to be able to conceptualize everything depending on what's going on, whether like you're playing through the dribble or you're playing through the post up or you're playing through ball screens or moving the ball or screens away from the basketball. So like just the overall understanding of what you want to do offensively. So obviously we'll do a lot of the same things in the past. We won't have as much in a certain area as other years, but then like being pretty open to it. So like you just kind of let the competition take you where it's going to be. Obviously the people that have been highly successful that return, you have your feel and your understanding that obviously you're going to have the ball in Braden Smith's hands a lot. Fletcher Lawyer's going to get more stuff for actions. Trey Kaufman-Ren has proven that he can score with his back to the basket. I think he can do a little bit more than that, and he didn't get that opportunity with the talent level that we had and the different guys that we had. So like his usage, I would think, would go up. And then we have some young guys that are very talented. We have some guys that played roles last year that those could increase. I don't like to really talk about somebody's role in June. I think it's something you earn and something you work towards, and then you just gotta kind of get things figured out. And everybody's a rebounder, everybody's a sprinter, everybody's a defender. So like there's no difference along those lines, even though there's some differences in how you have to guard people. So
can you kind of get creative with those two wings, Cam and Miles?
Yeah, you can run
different stuff.
Yeah, stuff for lobs, for pin downs. I think their ability to do other things will probably help us more. Just kind of the in-between things of games, sprinting the floor, getting on the offensive glass, getting 50-50 balls, just using what the Lord gave you. Like you can't sit there and be long and athletic and not be able to rebound. Like you got to put it to work. And so like those are the type of things, both of those guys can shoot the basketball and make some plays for us offensively. But it's going to be the other things that complete them as a player that's really going to help us.
Trey talked last week about having more space to work, which obviously last year with Zach in there, he didn't have as much space.
Yeah.
Is that maybe more of his game where he's got more room to work and do some things?
Yeah, it depends on who he's with too. Like sometimes like not having enough space, but then you don't have the same attention either, right? So the spacing's not as good, but while Zach was on the floor, they really weren't too worried about him, right? And now they'll get more worried about you. So it changes a little bit as they might double a little bit more on you or scrape on the ball side with you. But I think it depends on who he's with. If we ultimately go small and he's our center, then I think he has a lot of space. Like if he's in there and he's with, Wilberg, or he's with Daniel Jacobson, or, one of those bigger centers, like, you're right back into the fold in terms of the way it was before. But yeah, I think, he's got a chance to have an all-conference type season. I think he can really score the basketball, and he just hasn't been as consistent because you don't have as consistent minutes. Obviously, more this past year he started, but you're still not playing through your mistakes, as you would like, as Braden does, or Fletch does, or Zach did, or the guys that play 25 to 35 minutes.
I know that Daniel just got here, but how beneficial was that international experience? And you've had guys in the past where he wasn't here, but he's also playing games against high-level competition.
Yeah, it's no different than like going to Brewster and starting for Brewster and then playing, one of the best schedules in the country and knowing that you belong. I think that gave him a lot of confidence to go to USA and to compete and play, and then to be their starting center. And make the all-tournament team with them. That just gives you more confidence to know you're one of the best players in the world at your age. And so yeah, we're excited about it. Like it's on the up and up. Like he's very athletic. He's got a good competitive wire to him. He can really block shots. His offense has really improved. He can make threes. He can score around the basket. Now just learning everything and keep getting stronger and keep getting better and keep working. But no, there's a lot of positives there.
last year you talked about sitting in it after the loss.
Yeah.
Is there a difference in having to deal with success as a coach and a team?
Sure. Yeah, no question. But I think it's also like, you get a taste of it and, you're able to win your league back-to-back years. That shouldn't make you not want to, try to win your league 3 years in a row. Like you can't. I always say that if I walk in the locker room and somebody's upset after a win, like you're messed up, I'm not. Like, you have to be able to take a win, even though it might not be perfect, and feel good about it. So when you have success, you also got to be able to keep that edge. I think that's your job as a coach, is to try and do everything in your power to keep them on edge, to keep that carrot in front of them and keep fighting and trying to get better. Because we have a lot of new guys. So, but we also have, in comparison to everybody in college basketball, we have a lot of experience returning too. Like, how can you have both? But in today's landscape, we kind of do have both. So maybe not as much as last year, but still to be able to have as many players that's played as many minutes as we have, like we're different. Like we're a lot different than other people in college basketball. Like nobody's visiting and signing 5 guys and having 6 visits, or signing really with 6 guys and having 7 visits, and then not taking anybody in the spring. And so only having 2 guys in the portal, taking 2 guys in the portal in 4 years. Nobody in college basketball is doing that except us. So you have both of those scenarios there that kind of shows you that I think we have something pretty special just in the combination of the people at Purdue and the education at Purdue to go along with great basketball tradition.
What's it like having all the freshmen here at once? Are you really watching?
Right. Well, we don't have all of them. Obviously, Jakari is trying out for Mexico to hopefully play in the Olympics, and then Jack Benner's been he's been sick, so he hasn't got going yet. So it's great. It's good to for Daniel and for Raleigh and CJ Cox, all those guys. They're good players, but sometimes it's your best doesn't come out until you know what you're doing. So I think that's our job. I've always taken the summer practices as not workouts, but as practices. So like they're getting, so they understand our system, they understand what they're supposed to do. And now when you start in the fall, now you just didn't do workouts and then the real practice starts. We've already practiced. So I think that really helps out freshmen, because everybody that comes in wants to play. So you got to do everything in your power to give them that chance. And that's what the summer does for them.
Obviously that class was supposed to be one bigger though. How disappointed are you in the way that the Kanon Catchings situation finished up?
Not at all. Like I want people that want to be here. He asked out of his letter and we granted it. So it's not that big a deal. You coach and you recruit and you go out there and you put your best foot forward. And, if something happened, it would be one thing, but nothing happened. It's just one of those deals where, he was concerned about his role and just wanted out of his letter, and then kind of went back the next day and said everything was good, and it just was like, this is probably better that we, kind of part ways if, you're questioning things before things start. And that's, it's kind of the uncertainty. I think every freshman that comes in has those uncertain thoughts, but, you compete and earn your way into a role. Like I can't anoint a role just somebody out of thin air. You walk in, you compete. Zach Edey didn't have a role. Fletcher Laurie didn't have a role. They came in here and they earned what they got, and that's the way it is. But I think more than anything, it's just the happiness of your players and the happiness of your team. It's competition and it's difficult, but if right away, you sense hey man, you're starting off on the wrong foot, and somebody wants out of their letter, don't. I think it's probably best to go separate ways. So we wish him good luck and hope everything works for him.
You obviously talked a lot over the years about the importance of culture, and that's almost been what has propelled you guys to what you are now. At the same time, you've got a guy who next week might be a lottery pick, or is going to be close to it potentially.
It's cool.
So what is kind of the balance between those two things? Because I would think it can't only be the first thing, right? There still has to be that component of maybe being known for developing elite players.
Yeah, well, your culture is something you have to work on every day. It's something that can go away pretty quickly. But I think it starts within the character of the people you have on your team and the people you have on your staff. And you're not perfect. Everything is not, going to be perfect. But, for us, we have to keep it from a highly competitive standpoint and keep getting better and keep it improving along those, those lines. But, if you have the right people, you can make a lot of mistakes and you're going to be okay. If you have the wrong people, like, it just isn't going to work. And so, like, we feel like we have a locker room right now where, you know, everybody's on the same page, they're competing, but we also know, like, everybody in that locker room is not going to play. And then when that happens and that crumbles, like, that's where you kind of find out. So don't lose your time right now. Like in June and July and August, don't look at it like, it's just a summer workout. Like, try to get in front of guys, even though they're your teammates and you love them and you got to go to battle with them. You got to get in front of somebody. You know, you got to beat the guy in front of you. So you still have to have that element along with the other things to have that culture and to have that growth. Go ahead.
Do you need to be known still as a program that develops guys like Edey, that develops like upper echelon NBA talent too?
Yeah.
Besides, I know you want to appeal to the culture guys, the guys who want to
Right.
be here, but is that also an advertisement for the program that you
Yeah,
have to
well, they're
have?
all culture guys, in my opinion. I think the greatest, like, talent that's ever played is Michael Jordan. He's a culture guy. So you can't look at culture guys like they're just guys that are under recruited and tough and gritty and do the little things. Like, you know, everybody's a culture guy if you're about winning. And so, like, I think that's the piece. Zach's improvement led from his, you know, his physicality and how he was and how big he was, but his work that he put behind it. He put a lot of work behind it. He was very competitive. So he's a great story because, you know, that's what you want. You want to see guys get better and grow each year. But in terms of recruiting, like, you know, I want to get the same guys we're getting. I don't want to get a different guy. And I think sometimes when you start to win more, like, you think, okay, this is really going to propel our recruiting. And so, like, I don't make a big deal on, like, people, they'll go and rank them, and, like, people will say something to me and say, like, hey, I don't really have that high opinion about the people that are ranking them. Like, they've never coached. So, like, the people that know what they're doing, they shop for the groceries and they make the meal. That's what we do as college coaches. Like, you know what I mean? And so, like, these people that are ranking them either are people that never coached, or people that failed at coaching, or people that kind of pseudo do it. And so, like, when they rank you low, like, you want to be mad at them. Then they rank you high, you want to be, like, happy about it. And I'm neither. I could care less what they put. Like, I like them. So, like, I think that's the point, is, like, being able to trust yourself and trust your process, and you know, trust your eyes and what they see, but also go and pay attention to stuff. Like, pay attention to the makeup of people, but also pay attention to the people around them. I think that's an important piece, because I need help working with each one of these guys. If something goes down and there's some trouble, like, I need someone to trust me, to know that we can get together and make decisions to best help that person.
Are you doing anything in the way you run your program right now to get out in front of all the changes coming to college sports here with the revenue sharing and the scholarship limits and stuff like that?
You got any advice? Now, I'm going to that meeting on Monday and Tuesday with the Men's Basketball Oversight Committee, so I'll know more kind of at that time. But there's nothing to really do, because you know how it is coming out, but you don't know in what format, and you don't know how it splits, and you don't know how they handle high major programs without football. You don't know how they're going to handle gender equity, you know, once everything settles, and then, you know, and then how do you go about that along with image and likeness still. So there's still some uncertainties there of how things get, you know, split up and stuff.
If 3 guys leave last year, you set a standard here for a long time.
Yeah.
How do you see your team's personality kind of?
Who left? Who we got?
Edey, Gillis, Morton.
Morton, okay, gotcha.
How do you see the team's kind of mentality and personality switch a little bit with the new leadership, new guys?
Yeah, I was thinking, when you said leave, I was thinking transfer.
Oh, sorry, no.
Even though 2 of them did at the end. So to kind of clarify that, a lot of people put things out there. So last year in the spring, I got with those guys and just said that whoever had an extra year, like, I'll hold a scholarship for you. But if you don't want, you know, me to do that, then I'm going to go use that scholarship. So, but I made him make that decision in late April and May. And then with Ethan, you know, he didn't play as much, so he wants to play. So that makes a whole lot of sense. And then with Mason, like, you know, he's going to go to the G League or go, you know, play overseas. And I just thought financially it made a whole lot of sense for him to get in the portal, just because he's such a great piece of the puzzle. And then, like, you know, he can put himself there where he can make whatever. But, like, that to me, I thought was just a really good decision, like, on his part. Now, ask me the question again.
How is the team's personality? You see it transform with, like, Braden and Fletcher taking over now?
Yeah, well, they, you know, they were leaders on the team last year too. Like anytime you have the ball as much as Braden does, you got to be a leader. It's like having a freshman or a sophomore quarterback in football. Like they have to. Like you have the ball so much. And so Braden, I think, has made a lot of strides in those areas, and he needs to keep doing it. I think Fletch has been, a really good leader. But anybody that's been there and played, Caleb First, Trey Kaufman-Ren, anybody that's been there, but anybody who's also going to play a lot, no matter what their year is, man, you gotta do your job. You gotta lead by example, and that's always helpful.